Hello, and welcome to this tutorial video from the GMS support team. This video will take you through the Locations tab of the Project Proposal form of the GMS. And more specifically, on the locations-related errors preventing the page from being validated. We will review all error messages and will provide the solutions. Check the video description below, it provides the exact error time passage in the tutorial. The sum of percentage budget distribution must be 100. It means that the sum of the budget percentages allocated to your different locations doesn't amount to 100%. Under the Locations Added section, check the % linked column of the location. The total will indicate your sum of budget percentages linked to each location. It should amount to 100%. To fix this, you can either add a new location and input the remaining budget % or click on Edit to update the budget percentage of the existing locations. The sum of all the locations' budget distribution must be 100%. Each location in budget distribution must link to minimum one location in affected persons distribution. It means that there are no affected persons distributed in the budget location. Click on the Add Affected Persons button, and insert the related information. Total percentage in affected person distribution must be 100. It means that the sum of affected persons' percentages in the different locations is less or greater than 100%. Check the % linked column of the affected persons total, at the bottom of the Locations Added section. It indicates the sum of percentage of affected persons linked to each locations. It must equal 100%. Select the affected persons locations line which percentage you wish to edit. Click on Edit. Update the percentage and click on Save. You can repeat this action until all your affected persons' budget distributions are correct, and your total % linked is 100%. Total percentage of affected person distribution must match with the percentage of budget distribution for each location. It means that the % linked for your affected person's locations is greater or lesser than the budget % linked for the location itself. Here, for the location Al-Hasakeh, the linked budget percentage to the location is 45%. However, the affected person's associated percentage is 50%, not 45%. This discrepancy is causing the error. If it is the budget percentage that is incorrect, click on Edit of the Locations line. Update the percentage and click on Save. If the budget percentage is correct, and you wish to edit the affected person's percentage, click on Edit of the affected person's line. Update the percentage and click on Save. Percentage of budget distribution must be equal to cluster-wise distribution for each location. It means that in a multi-cluster project, the sum of the budget percentages for the clusters doesn't match the total budget percentage in the location. Click on Edit on one of the locations line to check if the cluster allocation is correct. Here, the inputted budget percentage is 20%. However, the sum of the inputted clusters' percentages doesn't match 20%. Edit the clusters' percentages so that their sum matches the overall budget percentage of the location. In this case, 10 plus 10 equals 20%. Total percentage of affected person cluster-wise distribution must match with the percentage of budget cluster-wise distribution for each location. It means that in a multi-cluster project, the affected person's cluster percentage breakdown doesn't match the location's cluster percentage breakdown. Click on Edit on one of the budget locations line to check if the cluster allocation is correct. Here the cluster breakdown is 10% for health, and 10% for shelter and NFI. However, if we look at the line below, the affected persons percentages, the cluster figures don't match, with 25% for health and 3% for shelter and NFI. Edit the affected persons cluster percentages so that they match the location's cluster percentages. Here, 10% for health, and 10% for shelter and NFI. Percentage of affected person distribution must be equal to cluster-wise distribution for each location. It means that in a multi-cluster project, the total percentage of affected persons in one location doesn't match the cluster percent breakdown of this location. Click on the Edit icon of the affected persons line with the error icon. Here, the affected persons budget distribution is 5%. However, you can notice that the cluster's breakdown is 2% for health, and 2% for shelter and NFI. The sum doesn't match the overall percentage. Edit the cluster's percentages so that they match the overall percentage. In our case, health now represents 3%. And shelter and NFI stays at 2%. The sum of the two clusters' percentages now equals 5%. Total affected persons against gender and type must match with numbers under Affected Persons tab. This means that the number of affected persons distributed in the locations doesn't match with the number inputted in the Affected Persons tab of the form. This is the Affected Persons tab of the project proposal. All the affected persons specified here must be distributed in the locations of the project. In our example, there is a total of 4,200 targeted beneficiaries, with a breakdown by gender and by type, for example host communities. If we go back to the Locations tab, in the Locations Added section, we can notice that the bottom line is a recap of affected persons. The black figures indicate the affected persons that have been distributed, while the green boxes indicate the number of undistributed affected persons. You have two solutions. You can either create a new location and distribute the remaining affected persons, or you can add more affected persons to the already saved locations. In both cases, you need to input the number of affected persons by type and gender in the dedicated fields. The green boxes indicate the number of undistributed persons. Here for instance, the green box for boys of the category host communities shows 28. It means that there are 28 boys that have not been distributed to any locations. Edit the numbers in the different locations until all affected persons inputted in the Affected Persons tab are distributed in a location. Check the green boxes in the bottom line of the section, they should all indicate 0. The black figures should match the numbers inputted in the Affected Persons tab. Affected persons distribution under each cluster for a location cannot go above the distribution at the location level. This means that for a multi-clusters project, the number of affected persons provided in one cluster is higher than the overall number. In the Locations Added section of the Locations tab, click on the Edit icon of the Affected Persons line which you will edit. Here the overall number of men provided in the Other category is 50. However, in the Health cluster breakdown, we inputted 55. This caused the error. Update the numbers so that the cluster's affected persons number is below or equals the global distribution for the location, and click on Save. Total of affected person distribution in clusters for a location cannot be less than the distribution at the location level. It means that the sum of affected persons from the cluster's breakdown is less than the overall number of affected persons. In the Locations Added section of the Locations tab, click on the Edit icon of the Affected Persons line which you want to update. In our example, 50 men from the others category are counted as affected persons in this location. However, we inputted 20 men of the same category benefiting from the health cluster's activities, and 20 men benefiting from the shelter and NFI activities. The sum of the two is 20 plus 20 equals 40, hence below the overall 50 affected persons previously inputted. Edit one of the cluster's number so that the sum of the affected persons is either equal or higher than the overall number. Yes, you heard right, the sum of the cluster breakdown affected persons can be higher than the overall number inputted. This is due to the fact that one person can benefit from activities in two different clusters, hence is counted in both clusters, but not twice in the overall number. However, let's remember that in one cluster, the number inputted cannot be higher than the overall affected person's number. See error message number 9. Each affected person's location distribution of type, others, must provide details. This means that the data linked to the other category of affected persons as specified in the project proposal have not been distributed to any location. This error message will appear if you created a other category of affected persons in the Affected Persons tab. In our case, the other category represents the elderly. In the Locations Added section of the Locations tab, click on the Edit icon of the Affected Persons line in which you will distribute the Others category. Select in the drop-down list the Other category, and distribute affected persons in the location, before clicking on Save. Your locations are now error-free. We hope this video was helpful. For more help or should you have any comment, please contact the GMS support team.